Hello, everyone, and welcome to In-House Counsel Insights, where we bring different attorneys from different companies and different industries and different practice areas to share their experiences and some tips and tricks of the trade. Here today with us is Dewayne Nichols, and he is Senior Counsel with Cigna. Hey, Dewayne, how are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, wonderful. So why don't you first of all just give us a brief background, just so we have some context on what Cigna is. I've definitely heard of them. We've heard of most insurance companies, but it's always good to get a background for the listeners.
Sure. Well, Cigna is a global health services company. They provide healthcare plans and administration for clients globally. They do it in three main ways. One is through the Cigna Healthcare, which provides plans, health, medical, pharmacy, dental, behavioral health, and related services for commercial clients, for fully insured as well as self-funded plans. They also provide Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplemental, and Medicare Part D coverage for seniors, and then also offers individual health plans for families and individuals throughout the U.S. That's healthcare side. Then there's the health services side. Evernorth, which is a subsidiary of Cigna, provides pharmacy benefit management services, specialty pharmacy and distribution, and healthcare management solutions for government entities, payors, providers, and employers. So that's a big part of Cigna's business. And then another significant portion of Cigna's business is international. Cigna has a lot of programs where they offer benefits to citizens living overseas in regional markets, as well as employees of multinational companies and folks who are living abroad.
And before Cigna, were you in-house counsel anywhere else?
No, Cigna is my first in-house experience.
Okay. And did you do health insurance when you were outside counsel?
I actually did not do specific health insurance. I actually had very little to no experience in the payor space. My background was mainly transactional. I did a lot of work relating to private equity and acquisitions. Branched out to finance for transactions relating to oil and gas. And somewhere along the line, I ended up working on a healthcare client that did anesthesia management services. And so I basically became the outside general counsel, where I was setting up physician practices, doing agreements with providers, joint ventures, financings, anything related to that space, and also making sure that those activities were compliant with healthcare laws like the anti-kickback statute and Stark law. So I definitely wet my feet with that. And then from there, I took on roles advising hospitals, other physician entities relating to acquisition, dispositions, and other types of transactions in the healthcare space. So I had that experience on the provider side, but not the payor side. And so it ended up when Cigna came calling, I said, hey, I don't have that specific experience. And they said, well, we see that you have that healthcare space knowledge, and that's a good background, and you have a lot of transactional experience. So we can tell you're a versatile attorney, and we want to make sure that even if you don't have that, we'll get you up to speed on the insurance stuff. So that's kind of how I ended up with Cigna.
And so you had all these diverse corporate securities, finance practice areas in different industries. Did having all that exposure to different industries help you with what you do today?
I definitely think it did. Right now, I serve as a kind of regional counsel for Cigna in the South and Southwest. So I have a couple of states that I support regional sales offices for. And anything that comes through, from the sales or other business units, in those states, I have to manage and take care of. And so a lot of those things can just come from a lot of different angles. I could have bankruptcy, that clients having bankruptcy issues. Client needs, they have to work on payment plans for a particular client that doesn't necessarily have the money to deal with something. You get a lot of compliance issues, a lot of issues relating to legislative affairs. So anything that comes through, I have to be able to deal with. And so I think that my background in terms of handling a lot of stuff in the healthcare space and dealing with a lot of transactional issues and drafting and different things, I think that enabled me to kind of approach things and handle a wide variety of items that, that Cigna throws my way.
Well, you mentioned a lot of what you do, and I know Cigna is technically your client, but who are your client contacts? Who are the type of people that you work with?
So I work with a lot of different business units, primarily sales. I do a lot of client services work. So when sales has engaged the client or a client wants to use Cigna services, I'll negotiate agreements with clients that need specific types of healthcare administration coverage. I also will work with the compliance teams. They come to me and ask questions about whether or not a client's request for adjustments to their healthcare plan or providing a new service is compliant with the state law in a particular state. You also get questions from, let's say, our communications team. We have a legal communications team, and they may do a press release in a certain area or need to do a response. I'll work with that team for that state, if it's a certain region, to craft a response that's legally good in terms of helping Cigna's reputation and keep reputation strong. So I get a lot of different, I do get a lot of different calls from different units. And also in terms of litigation, or at least when there's a client dispute, sales will come to me and say, hey, this client is unhappy. They're threatening to sue. I will work with sales to reach out to that client to mediate and negotiate any pre-litigation disputes up to and when the lawsuit's filed. When the lawsuit's filed, it goes to my litigation colleagues. But I'm in charge of trying to manage disputes outside of litigation.
Well, that's a lot to manage and a lot of people. And you said there's a lot of people that reach out to you. But as an in-house attorney, how do you stay in the know? Because clients don't always know to reach out to you, and sometimes it's good to be in those meetings early on. Is there a way that you manage that?
Well, I try to make sure that sales knows that I'm accessible and very much willing to get on a call with the client. Sales is the initial touch point for a client. So we have client services managers. They work with the client. They try to address the client's concerns relating to any particular issue. But if it's something that gets thorny or gets overly legal, they reach out to me and they say, hey, Dewayne, we have this issue. We need to make sure that the client is understanding legally why we can or can't do something. And I will work and explain to the client or the client's counsel why we're taking the certain position that we are. But really, a lot of that is not me reaching out directly to any particular client. I rely on sales to know when to loop me in.
Okay.
So when it's appropriate.
That makes sense. That's good to have a point of contact in a certain department. It totally makes sense given your position. What about adding value to your customers? How do you do that as an in-house attorney?
Well, my customers are my clients. The customers that I have are in-house. So even though we do have clients, most of the time sales is my client. So in terms of dealing with sales or other business units, I make sure to try to, once again, let them know that I really am available for anything they need in terms of being any sort of initial strategizing or any sort of planning relating to a strategy for a region or a sales market. I don't want to be the obstacle to anything. I want to be the facilitator in terms of being able to let folks know that if they have a plan, I want to provide input up front, so rather than have them come to me when they've developed all this strategy and thought they've got everything together, and I have to say, well, no, that's not going to work. This is not right. So I try to avoid that, and by being part of the conversation early on, it builds a level of trust with whoever you're working with in the business, so that they know that you've got their best interest in mind, and you're trying to reach the same goal with them to get the right services out to folks and do it in a cost-effective manner.
What do you like about being in-house? What's your favorite thing?
In terms of the day-to-day, I like that I can focus on one client. The company is my client. I don't have to worry about billable hours or client development issues, because I already have my client and I'm able to focus my time and energy more on learning about the industry I'm in and also about the nuances of the business and how to best serve the business. So from that perspective, it's easier. I also get, like I said, in terms of the depth of knowledge that I can acquire in terms of learning about the insurance industry, the healthcare industry, it's been great. But also in terms of the breadth. I mean, I think I'm doing more now in terms of the type of role as a counsel than I would as a specialist who goes in and helps as an outside counsel specialist that helps a client finish the deal, but they've already developed the strategy. They're just trying to close things and get things done. So I feel like I get a more intimate knowledge of the industry, and that makes me a more effective attorney.
Right. And as someone that has always really had a diverse practice area and has sought that out, it makes sense that you like seeing a diversity of issues. What about your least favorite thing?
In terms of, and it's different for every organization, but in terms of the organization I'm in now, it's very large, a lot of different matrices in terms of connections and business units and things. And so it's important to try to not be siloed too much in terms of the types of work you're doing, because you can get focused on only your business unit and not be aware of the big picture in terms of other strategies, other business operations that are out there. You have to take the time to get to know other folks in throughout the enterprise. Make sure you're aware of what's going on with them so that you can have a holistic view of things. And that way you can make sure that your approach and how you're dealing with issues is in line with the overall goals of the organization.
Right, makes sense. Let's talk about continuing education. I know you've been part of the corporate counsel section of the Houston Bar Association for quite some time, and you're the past chair, actually, and you're going to be sitting on the council soon if you're not already. So why did you join the corporate counsel section, and how has that helped you in your career?
Well, I joined the corporate counsel section because I wanted to know what in-house counsel were thinking. I actually joined way before, like you said, way before I joined with Cigna. But I think that group gives a lot of insight into the concerns of in-house counsel, which as an outside counsel is important to know because you want to be able to effectively, serve your client. But I mean, now as an in-house counsel is very useful because you get a lot of general knowledge about issues that I think any in-house counsel would want to know about. So, for instance, employment or cybersecurity and data protection or environmental issues, real estate issues. I mean, it's not that you'll become an expert from going to the CLA, but you still get a baseline of knowledge so that you can be at least a little bit dangerous and be able to approach issues, or at least know how to reach out to the right people. So right. I would recommend to anybody that they join the corporate counsel section. It's been very enriching for me. And like you said, I served as the last year's chair, and I'm the immediate past chair, but they do have a lot of useful CLE programs for folks that I think are beneficial.
Great. And I think that's a great suggestion. And Dewayne, I want to thank you for your time and sharing your thoughts with us today. I really appreciate it.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome.